Episode 3 of Sweet Reincarnation, the episode where, for once, we actually get Paz making his first ever dessert. It's about time. Well, welcome back to another video here on the VikingGnomeAnime channel. Today we are recovering episode 3 of Sweet Reincarnation, and well, episode 3 is more of the same. I think the show has some potential still, and for the preview for the 4th episode, that might be really interesting depending on how they handle it. So with episode 3 here, we finish up with the bandit incursion. It's been dealt with as of the end of last episode. We just get the aftermaths of the bandits being strung up and secured in a warehouse. And then we just get like this celebratory party, basically, of them defeating the bandits. But of course, Mark and Lumi, being kids, they just go to check up on the bandits because they want to do their jobs, so to speak, as they say, to be the future lieutenants for the Lord Paz, etc. And they end up basically doing some stupid stuff and getting the bandit leader released, which ends in a confrontation. Lumi gets hit with the sword and gets decently hurt, and then the bandit leader runs away on his horse and Paz chases after to rescue Mark, etc. One thing I did like about that entire portion of the episode was that kids are actually acting like kids. Like just how the bandit leader coaxes Mark into making this mistake so he gets free. The bandit leader sort of coaxing him with like, oh yeah, where did you get the sword from? And then he says, I got it as a reward, and then the bandit leader goes on with, oh yeah, that used to be my sword, and actually it has some magical powers. And before I die, I would like to teach you how to use it to its full potential. It's like, really? It has magic? I could use magic like Paz if I master this? And then how the bandit leader just uses that sort of, let's say, logic, so to speak, that to a kid would be like, oh yeah, that sounds cool, but of course an adult, they would never buy that, right? And how then he then coaxes Mark into basically getting close and then kicking him away and getting the sword and getting free. But that entire section I thought was well done in terms of, yeah, here we have kids actually acting as kids, being like 8, 9, 10 years old, whatever, and just being kids, not really knowing too much about the world, and Mark in this case letting himself be fooled that, he could actually use magic or whatever with the sword, and then that's how the bandit leader got away. That entire section I thought was well made, again, because it makes sense, and actually seeing kids be kids is something we don't really see a lot of the time, especially in isekai anime, where kids are usually just the MC, being insanely OP and smart. So in this case, good. It was nice to see that. Furthermore, I do like how they generally handle Mark and his guilt as Lumi gets hurt as the bandit leader escapes, gets, like a cut across the abdomen. And she doesn't die, but gets hurt, right? And just the guilt Mark feels, and then how Paz basically guides him to not necessarily overcoming his guilt, but convincing him to go and apologize and forgive himself and move on, right? And take this lesson to heart and not make the same mistake again. That entire section as well I thought was fairly well done, not bad at all. Basically just kids learning lessons as they go along in life and learn. And yeah, that entire part I thought was decently done as well. And really showcasing like the guilt and such that Mark feels for causing the injury to Lumi. We do get some interesting developments as well in terms of the magic that Paz uses, or Pace uses. As we learned in the last episode, it's replicate, right? So he can replicate anything onto other things. What we learned in this episode is that, okay, so he can use his replicate magic to replicate anything, including other magic that he has seen or interacted with. So in this episode, he copies or replicates his father's teleportation magic to make him and Mark escape from the bandit leader at that point in the episode. And then of course he tells that to the father, then the father basically forbids him from telling it to anyone else, because that is of course an extremely dangerous ability that if anyone found out will cause them to basically come for him, to use him as a human weapon, or use him in some sort of schemy way, right? Which again will harken back to episode 1, where the priest said that, don't expect me to keep this a secret, alluding to the priest knowing that this replicate ability is valuable. And I'm sure some people will already by this time have started hearing about it, and I'm sure a lot of the later stages confrontations we see in season 1 will be Pace basically defending himself or avoiding all this attention and issues he will face having this sort of special ability. So yeah, we got more info on this magic basically. I did also like how when Pace is riding his horse to rescue Mark, how he, instead of it being in typical isekai fashion where the isekai MC has every single power and he can do anything he wants to with ease, Pace actually has this inner monologue section where he talks about, okay, so I have Replicate. How can I use my skill that I know of now to, like my magic, to defeat this planet leader? Obviously, I can't defeat him in normal combat. I'm just a kid. I can't use the sword as well as him. I'm not a trained soldier yet. But I do with my Replicate magic. If the worst comes to worst, if I can just make him, even if he wounds me, I can replicate my wound onto him. As long as I avoid like a one-hit kill, I should be able to turn the table. I mean, that sort of inner monologue, actually strategizing, actually thinking up a plan of action, I think is also really refreshing, because again, in many isekai anime, you will just have the MC being stupidly strong, not having any issues, no challenges ever, and you can just breeze through everything without really needing a strategy, right? So in this case, actually having Pace be limited with his power, even though his power is very versatile and potentially extremely powerful, at least in the long run, as he can only copy what he has currently seen, it's a very nice breath of fresh air in that sense. So in that sense, as I said, his ability is very strong, but currently it's not super strong, right? As his main selling point would be that even though he can replicate anything, being able to replicate any magic he sees or interacts with is like the main selling point, right? That's the sort of really power scaling section of his replication ability. But as of this time, it isn't really that powerful, as he has only seen his father's magic, meaning he can only use one other spell, which is limiting, right? But in the long run, let's say he gets to be 50 years old and he's seen thousands of different spells, right? Then he would be like a absolutely insane menace and like an OP, insane sort of character. But having it be like this, having the system and the magic system and such for him set up this way, it means that we can actually see and have a sort of arc of him becoming more and more powerful as he hopefully accumulates more and more spells and becomes more and more sort of powerful as he gets all these new things he can use in terms of spells and magic as he goes through the world and grows up. That can be interesting as well, also from the aspect of him getting all these new spells and then using them in new and interesting ways, right? It opens up the possibility of him exploring the world, whatever, going on adventures, if that's where the show takes him, to then basically acquire new spells week to week, having more of a, okay, what sort of thing can I learn about now? What sort of spell might I come across that I can then use in different circumstances, and how do I handle this in terms of what may happen in whatever. That can be a very interesting route moving forward in the season, though I doubt we will actually see him become much older than like 14, 15, as the vast majority of isekai never show the MC as an adult. Usually it's just like gonna be 2, 3, 4, 5 years time span at most, and it's almost always from a kid to a teen, or around that range. Very, very rarely do you see an MC actually grow up to be an adult, and you see a section of his adult life. Maybe we see that here, but I'm not hopeful. It will be sick though. Would be really nice. We do get some humoristic elements here and there as well in the episode. Not too many, but some humor here and there, some small jokes in between the action and the plot. And they land well enough. They're not horrible. They're pretty okay. So they didn't mind those either. And yes, as I mentioned at the beginning here, Pace finally makes his first dessert, being an apple pie, or banka pie in this world. So it only took 3 episodes before the patissier master to actually make a dessert. I assume we will get way more after this point. I'm a bit curious though, because he used sugar and honey, which I thought he didn't have at his area, his village. But I guess they bought it in the capital at the same time they bought the banka, they just didn't show it. I don't believe they showed that at least. So I guess he just got it there. If not, where the hell did he get it? But I assume they just bought it in the capital. That's how he was able to make these pies. And of course everyone loves them because, he's a master patissier. Another thing that I do find somewhat enjoyable is that the show really does stick to the genre here, or the theme of like this dessert food focused anime, where they keep making references to food as Pace basically compares Mark's character development and growing as a person as like how fruits or like different vegetables or whatever ingredients in desserts change based on how you treat them and such, right? Like, okay, I get it. It's a dessert anime, okay. But those things, are entertaining still. I don't mind them. To end of this episode review here, as I said, the geopolitics, as it looks like we are getting in the next episode, can be really interesting, as I do absolutely love any sort of geopolitic setting and how things work out in different worlds and how they can make these really interesting, complex storylines play out. So we'll see how that goes in episode 4. But yeah, episode 3, it was pretty okay. It wasn't bad at all. The quality seems to be on par with the first 2 episodes, and I am interested enough to keep seeing Paste go forward in the world here and see what new magic he might get, or what might happen to him, as inevitably things will get complicated in his life, to be sure. But yeah, I'll keep watching it and I'll keep covering it. So far, it's not too bad. Very decent isekai of the Summer Sun 2023 season. What did you think of the episode? Did you like the episode? Do you like the show? Do you not like the show? What did you like about the episode? What did you not like about the episode? Or if you have any other thoughts, leave them below. That being said, if you liked the video, please leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good business to support the channel here. Thank you for the support you've chosen to give it. And I will see you all in the next anime review. So bye bye.